Already had one, right? Oh.
Yes, and hello to the participants who also checking in already. Welcome to SEED Awards 2021 informational webinar, and this session is dedicated to SEED Climate Adaptation Awards for Botswana, Malawi, and Zambia. So we have just finished another sessions on low carbon awards just now and jumped right into this one. Join with me today is Julia, who also take the leads in SEED Climate Adaptation Program, and Selena, who co-lead the awards with me. And my name is Pim. I am the SEED Awards 2021 coordinators. So let's go to see our agenda today. We are going to talk briefly about SEED Awards for 5 minutes, and then deep dive to this SEED Awards 2021, and ending with application clinic, where we going to respond to your Q&A. So those who are here already, you may find the buttons on your control panel called Q&A that have the logo of two conversation bubble. Yeah, that could work for you. Should we wait a few more minutes for participants to come in?
Should we start checking in the survey?
Oh, sorry, I need a few minutes for to create the survey. Yes, we would like to ask you some questions, some 2 questions to know you, to understand better what audience are with us here today. So the first question is going to be which audience group you categorize yourself into. So first one is you are the enterprise and you want to apply for SEED program or SEED award. The second group is you are the ecosystem actor who supports also the enterprise, and you want to get the information and relay the message of our webinar today. And the third group is you are a passerby. You don't know yet what you may want from this webinar, but just listen in. And the second question is the country. Which country are you operating in? So it's either Botswana, Malawi, or Zambia. And I would also understand if you may be from other countries that not for Climate Adaptation Award yet, but interested to see what do we have to offer in the program. So my poll is ready. You're supposed to see the polling here with the question that I've just mentioned now, and you can answer it right here in our Zoom. So 95% of the votes coming in. So I can see that 78% of the audience group are from the enterprise, which is as expected, as this is going to be an introduction and the information for our awards. And from country perspective, Malawi share the most and the majority of the audience here, 57%. So I'll just share the poll here briefly. Great. I believe it's now I could hand over the floor to Selena, who are going to walk us through SEED Program and SEED Awards.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pim. SEED is a global partnership for action on the green economy and sustainable development, and it was established by UNDP, UN Environment, and IUCN in 2002 at the World Summit of Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, South Africa. And SEED's mandate is to support entrepreneurs who provide solutions to environmental and social problems. And yeah, by promoting these sustainable entrepreneurs, we aim at creating green and inclusive growth and poverty reduction. The next slide, please. Yeah, so in order to achieve its goals, SEED focuses on two approaches. One is supporting sustainable enterprises, providing financial and non-financial support in every stage of their business journey. And the other approach is ecosystem building, where we strengthen collaborations with other actors who as well support sustainable entrepreneurs, like, for example, government, development organizations, investors, incubators, or other civil society actors. And then next slide, please. Yes, and regarding activities in the ecosystem building program, we have a training for trainers workshop and SEED business development toolkits for business consultants and incubators. We also implement climate finance and policy labs, and we also organize networking and knowledge exchange for different actors and stakeholders in the country. And now looking at the direct enterprise support program, SEED offers a SEED starter, a catalyzer, an accelerator, and a replicator program. And this depends basically on the stage of the enterprise development, which these programs are targeting. So the ideation stage fits our starter, and the more developed enterprises would fit in the next categories on the right side after the starter on the slide here. And this links to the awards program, because the winner of the SEED awards, they will automatically receive the accelerator support, and the runners up will receive the catalyzer support. but yeah, we will talk about these details in a few minutes. And now in this slide, you can see a lot of numbers. So we started the awards program in 2005, and since then we have supported enterprises in 38 countries, and we already have more than 244 winners. And we have 5 key sectors, which are sustainable agriculture, biodiversity, energy, green solutions, and waste and sanitation. But yeah, you can also apply if you're from other sectors. And most of the enterprises in the past, they came from the African continent, also because the seed program started there. But now slowly we are also moving into other regions. For example, as you can see here, there are quite a lot of enterprises already coming from Asian countries. And now I will hand over to Julia, who will tell you more about the adaptation component of the awards.
Sure, I'm happy to do so. Since you might be aware, in this award for the Southern African region, for the 3 target countries, we have a focus on climate change adaptation. And I would like to give some introductions on what climate change adaptation means for us in the entrepreneurship, from an entrepreneurship perspective. So we created this chart, which shows us the scope of climate change adaptation impact that we are looking at. So going from the outside to the inside, starting with only building like business resilience, towards strengthening also community resilience. And then in the center is the focus on providing climate change adaptation solutions. So the scope basically gets bigger when you go more to the core of this this circle diagram. So it's also from business continuity to business opportunity, and we are really looking for enterprises that provide climate change adaptation solutions, but also think about strengthening community resilience, since our support programs are very much focused on enterprises that are locally based. So they have a strong link to local communities, and building resilience, of course, is also an important factor. That's one aspect of our adaptation approach. Then please, the next slide. So to get a bit more concrete, what do we look at if we say that we are selecting climate change adaptation enterprises? Here we put down the selection criteria. So one very important aspect that you can see on the left side is the business model that addresses key climate change impacts. And we mapped out a few here, but I will dive a bit more into detail in this next slide. So you can see here reduced agricultural productivity, for example, or reduction in water availability. So it's really about the core business model, the value proposition of the enterprise, tackling one of these impacts on the communities, but also on the enterprise itself and the ecosystem around. Then when we move then to the next one in the center, here you here you can see the 2 perspectives regarding the product and service the enterprise is offering. So we are looking at it from a provider and a user perspective. So basically a provider of a climate change adaptation solution. One example here would be a provider of drip irrigation systems or weather services. And then there's the user of this climate change adaptation solution, which in this example would be a climate smart agriculture business applying drought resistant crops, or also using the drip irrigation systems. And then if we then move to the right, like the third key element is then that there are 3 eligible types of adaptation enterprises. So we have 2 priority types, A and B. The first one is that the enterprises are providing a technology solution to reduce climate change impacts. So looking more at the what I just said about the provider perspectives, the provider of a solution. And the second priority would be an enterprise that is mitigating climate risk for the local community. So this can then also be a user of such a climate change adaptation solution, but there has to be proof that this enterprise is mitigating then climate risk for the local communities. And the third type, number C, that you can see down here is are enterprises that are mitigating climate risk for their own business operations. Here we only allow those enterprises from eligible sectors that you will also see on the next slides. So maybe we move forward now to the next slide. Thank you. So if we look at the key criteria on addressing climate change impacts, there are 2 guiding questions that are important if you want to apply for this award. So the first one is, how does the product or service offered by the enterprise contribute to climate change adaptation, therefore reducing the vulnerability of either the community or other enterprises or the ecosystems to climate change effects? And the second key question that you would need to answer is, in how far has your eco-inclusive enterprise increased its own resilience to climate change impacts and risks? And how does this have a positive social and environmental impact? So yeah, these are the 2 key questions with regards to climate change impacts. Maybe we can already move to the next slide here. Because we have been talking a lot about, or I have been talking a lot about impacts, climate change impacts. I just wanted to quickly show what we mean by that. So of course we have some key climate-related hazards like changing wind patterns, temperature variability, etc. I think you may be all aware of this, and these relate then to key risks on physical and biological systems, which could be heat waves or water stress, floods, drought, and so on. Of course, the lists here are not exhaustive, but they give an indication of the type of risks we are looking at, and which is in this table, the column on the right is then the key column for the enterprises applying for the award, because you would have to show in your application that you are addressing one of these risks on human and managed systems. So for instance, there's then, because of these climate-related risks and hazards, there is then reduced agricultural productivity or food security. There can be damages to physical infrastructure, business disruptions, etc. So in your application, you would then have to show how your enterprise business model addresses these risks and how you address them by answering the questions that we just looked at the previous slide. Okay, then I think we can move on to the next slide, please. So having looked at the climate impacts, we are now looking at the other key criteria, which is the product or service that the enterprise is offering. So I already pointed out that we look at it from a provider and a user perspective. So the provider of a climate change adaptation solution, what would be the value proposition here? It would be to enhance the user's ability, so the user of the climate change adaptation solution, to adapt to and or build resilience to climate change. The product service in this regard could be any product, equipment, technology, service, or software and other tools that help to manage climate-related impacts or enable the identification, evaluation, monitoring of these impacts. And examples to make this a bit more tangible would be here. We already had the example of drip irrigation, but it could also be energy technology helping to enhance the reliability and security of electricity supply. climate and weather modeling for preventive planning would be another example. And on the user side, the value proposition would then be to enhance business resilience and decrease the vulnerability of the nearby communities to climate change impacts by providing a product or service that is based on climate-proof technology. So as we are talking about the user, this user would then be using one of these technologies. A provider has developed and is distributing, and this is then, of course, targeting nearby communities as customers, employees, or other kind of beneficiaries. And examples here would be climate smart agriculture company or solar energy system distributor, but it could also be organic food processing enterprise, for instance. Applying any kind of climate smart technology. Sorry, you can move on. Thank you. With these two key criteria, we then arrive again at the 3 eligible types. And just to give you some more details here. So under type A, the solution provider. Here the key eligibility criteria would be proof of concept of this climate change adaptation product or service that enhances the user's ability to adapt or build resilience to climate change. For priority B, which is the user of this climate change adaptation solution, mitigating risks for the local community. Here, the key eligibility criteria would be proof of concept of the climate change adaptation product or service the enterprise is using to enhance own business resilience and at the same time decreasing the vulnerability of the nearby communities. And for type C, which is not a priority type, but we would still classify it as eligible candidates, is enterprises that are mitigating climate risk for their own business operations. So here we would need proof of concept of any measures that the enterprise has taken to increase its own business resilience. As I said, this is only enterprises from eligible sectors can apply. I will show that on the next slide, which sectors are actually eligible here. And there would also have to be some concrete ideas on the side of the enterprise to further increase their climate change adaptation impact through the seed support program. And then there's some additional scoring criteria that you can see below, which applies to all of the 3 types. This is, for instance, access to knowledge and technical resources, or it can also be internal expertise, of course, on climate change adaptation. Then also engagement in sharing knowledge or best practices about climate change adaptation and building resilience. It's about tracking and measuring climate change adaptation outcomes. So do you maybe have a monitoring system in place, or somehow keep track on the impacts you are achieving in regards, of course, to climate change adaptation. And then also one sub-criteria would be if there's maybe a contribution to climate change mitigation. I mean, this is of course not a must, because we are here looking at enterprises that create impact in the area of climate change adaptation. But I think in many cases there's also a synergy with mitigation activities, and this could also be pointed out in the application form. Okay, then I think we can move on to the eligible sectors for type C, because this might also be interesting for some of you. If you look at your enterprise and you have proof of concept of any measures that you have taken to reduce your own climate risk for the enterprise, then it would be important that you are from one of these sectors. As you can see, they're all somehow related to core climate change and also adaptation activities. So in the upper corner, it's about green tech, energy solutions, water, waste management, so more the utility side, but then of course also enterprises operating in forestry, biodiversity, and other related sectors. Climate smart agriculture is of course one very important sector when we talk about adaptation, related to that fishery, food, agri-processing, sustainable tourism, also education, community development as maybe more generic sectors. And then also the service sectors on the bottom, which could be like insurance or climate monitoring or warning systems. So all of these sectors, if these enterprises coming from these sectors would be able to show that, they are working on mitigating their own climate risks for the enterprise, then they would be eligible for the award as well. Okay, then I think we can come to the last slide, which is just to give you maybe a better idea by providing some examples on concrete business models that would be eligible. I mean, they're just examples, and they're also not real companies. They are made up for the purpose of this showcasing what we mean by the adaptation criteria I just talked about. So under Enterprise A, the solution provider, we chose an example of a company called Water and Sun, providing sustainable solar-powered irrigation systems to smallholder rice farmers. And they're then recovered through payment of water user fees and farm produce levies. And in addition, this eco-inclusive enterprise provides also technical support for agricultural production and a ready market outlet for the farm produce. And looking at this business model, what is then the climate change adaptation impact? So here, by providing smallholder farmers, which are in this case then the users of the climate change adaptation solution, with irrigation systems that increase their yields, Water and Sun contributes to food security affected by seasonal droughts. So there's the clear link between what the enterprise does to one of the key climate impacts on the communities and also the enterprises in the region. Then let's move to the second case, which is enterprises mitigating climate risk for the local community. Here we chose an enterprise called Save the Fish that rears local fish species that are threatened by overfishing and pollution. And the enterprise applies organic fish farming techniques using local resources, conserving aquatic ecosystems. And they're also employing women and youth and sell their fish on the local market. So what is the climate change adaptation impact here? It's related to biodiversity conservation, since they are rearing endangered fish species, and they are also contributing to the availability of clean water, given that they're also conserving aquatic ecosystems using organic farming techniques, and thus not polluting the river that people are using for as a water source. And then let's look into the third type, the enterprise mitigating the climate risk for their own business operations. Here the example is an enterprise called Clean City, which is a waste processing company sourcing plastic waste from informal waste pickers, producing plastic posts. The raw material is sorted, treated, and processed at an own facility. And how does the enterprise mitigate climate risk for their operations? This is by installing solar panels to secure energy supply during power cuts. And they're also invested in flood-proof buildings to protect their machinery. But the enterprise also shows interest in strengthening the resilience of the informal waste pickers they are working with. So the climate change adaptation impact here, I think, is also clear. I mean, they're installing solar panels and investing in flood-proof buildings to tackle direct climate impacts such as floods and climate-induced power cuts. And we also would in an application like this, we would also see the potential to strengthen the resilience of their value chain, which are the waste pickers, which could then be a potential avenue to go into when they participate in our seed support program. Okay, yeah, I think this was it about the adaptation angle, and yeah, I'm happy to answer your questions later.
I think that there is one that related to your presentation. Can you clarify more on available tools for monitoring the impact the enterprise is having on ecosystem or a community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I mean, we are not looking at like cutting edge monitoring and evaluation systems. I mean, we have been working with small and micro enterprises in many countries, and we know the challenges. And even big organizations can't get it right sometimes to really monitor and evaluate the impacts. But yeah, it would be good if you could show some kind of understanding of what you are doing and what kind of impact it has on adaptation, just to also show us that, yeah, you have thought about this topic and maybe you also educate the people around you because, yeah, knowledge sharing is also one very important part for SEED and our support. I hope this answers. I mean, I can't provide you with a very concrete example. It can just be maybe a table where you put down your activities, and then maybe you also have formulated some environmental goals that are related to adaptation, and then yeah, you try to match them with what you are doing, what your business is doing. So it can be really something very simple. It doesn't have to be, I don't know, a software or anything like that.
Thank you, Julia. Then I am happily taking on the next presentations is the prices and support package if you win. What happened next? So the prize package that is relevant to the Climate Adaptation Awards is on the column on the right. We expect 3 winners from 3 eligible countries and 15 runners up, so 5 per country. The winners will receive the matching grants worth 15,000 euro, and the accelerator support, which will give you the capacity building workshop for 1 year, and the one-on-one expert advice from our SEED business development service provider. The runners-up will receive similarly 1,500 euros of matching grants and the catalyzer support package. This is going to be 6 months long, and what different is this is going to be a group support rather than one-on-one. So you will get a chance to learn it from your peer. So peer-to-peer coaching. I forgot to mention here quite an important terms that we use here of the matching grant. So what do we mean by matching grant? So the matching grant is when you receive our grant support, our financial support of 15,000 euro, we are also required that you shoulder 33% of co-financing. This can be in kind or in cash, and it can also be from your own pocket or from a third-party organization. You might also apply for SEED Award and some other awards that is available in your country, and then use this 53% as a show, as a proof of co-financing to us in order to get this 15,000 euros. Talking about the timeline, the most important dates here is the 22nd of March, which is our application deadline. So after the deadline on the date 22nd of March, we will then have our internal screening of application in April. So by the end of April, all applicants will be notified if they are shortlisted or not by email. And during this period, our seed team is going to screen the application and conduct a due diligence, check the authenticates of the document or the claims that on your applications. After that, in May, those who pass the screening and being shortlisted will be requested to submit more additional document for our international juries. The international juries are the external expert from outside seed program from each awards country. So there are going to be several experts from Botswana, Malawi, and Zambia to also judge who are going to win the awards. So they are going to score your applications. The timeline is in late May and June, and we expect to announce the awards winners and runners up by end of June. So comes to the application clinics now. So before I take all the Q&A questions, I just would like to sum up the most frequent asked question that I experienced myself, which I believe that it's all applicable for you. The first one, the question that we receive most often is how to apply. To apply to seed awards, you need to go to our application platform. This is the only channel that you can apply for by typing in app.seed.uno. It's app.seed.uno, and it will land you on this login page. And what happens if you don't have a username and password? So create one. Create your seed account here. Once you click the create your seed account, it will come up with another page that you can fill in your name, last name, and please remember to fill in your country, because the system is going to allocate you automatically to the seed program available in your eligible country. So if you do not mention your country, then it cannot recommend you in which program you are eligible to. Your email address and password, set up your own password here and then click register. If all information is correct and complete, the system will send you an email message with the activation link looking like this. So click on the activation link. It will lead you back to the login page. So now you can type in your username, which is the email you give to us, and the password that you just set, and then log in. Next, you will see this page. So welcome to the seed platform. This means you are successfully logged in, create your account, etc. And as you can see here, I put my account as in Botswana. So the system automatically put me in the Seed Climate Adaptation Awards. So what do we have in this page? If you go in for the first time, this will show slightly different. It will say start your application before 22nd of March. And then when you go in for the second time, it will remind you to submit the application before the 22nd of March. Read more will lead you to our Seed website on awards program, so that you can see more information about awards. Similarly, you can also download the call for applications here with using this button. If you click start your application here, it will lead you to the next page. So now, as you can see, I screenshot the low carbon awards now. it will show slightly different since we do not have the application form in PDF for Thailand, for Thai and Indonesia Bahasa, because they are not eligible for Seed Climate Adaptation Awards. So the application will be only available in English here. And I would recommend you all to read the information from this page carefully, because it actually tells us quite a lot. So besides the application form in PDF here, you can also see this FAQ buttons to allow you to download the frequent asked question as well as more detailed information about our awards here. I also like to highlight that although we provide the PDF version of the application form, it should be only using as a reference, and you cannot just fill out the PDF version and send us through email. It doesn't work that way. You have to go to the Seed Award platform in any case. And the other part that I like to highlight is this colorful progress bar. This tells us the color coding that we use in tracking your application progress. The blue one is the section that you are currently working on. The section with no color is the one that you didn't visit or didn't fill in yet, have no information on. The section in yellow is the one that you partially fill and not complete. And only the green one means that you have already complete every asterisk or every mandatory questions. And only all the tabs, we have in total 8 sections in our application. So only when all the section turn green and the progress bar said that you have complete 100%, you can submit your application. So I received some of the questions that I already fill in 93%, why I cannot submit, because you only fill in 93% and not 100. So that's why the submission button is not enabled. But do click save along the way and go back to check the color of your section progress bar, and it will tell you like maybe section 1 is still yellow. So go to section 3 and find the question that you forgot to answer. If you're ready, just start your seed applications. A few more things that some of this I've already mentioned, that if you have problem logging in, and although you have done all the steps that I mentioned before the right way and you still cannot log in, please do send us your email address and if possible a screenshot of what's happening to our email seedawards2021@seed.uno. And as I mentioned, you can only submit the application by our platform, and only English is acceptable. This is because our scorer and jurors are from like international, multinational country. So we still keep English as a medium in terms of language and communication. I would now talk about the 8 eligibility criteria of the Seed Awards. So start with the criteria number 1. And please note that this doesn't mean the criteria number 1 has the highest weighting. So we try to weight all the 8 criteria quite equally. But of course, the criteria for triple bottom line and the climate adaptation aspect, which is the awards theme, will be slightly higher weighting. So the first one, you have innovative entrepreneur mindset. We want you to demonstrate a good understanding of your core business, your value proposition, and your customer and the market as well. we would like to see that you seek the opportunity from the problem or the pain point of the customer and try to make the business out of that. So tackling the problem of social and environmental that affect your community, and then along the way make money out of it. This is what we want to see. This part is highlighted in red because this is talk about the triple bottom line: social, environmental, and economic benefits that your business or your enterprise is giving to the societies. So ask yourself the questions of what benefits your enterprise, product, service, and activity do to the society, to community, local community, and marginalized group of people, or vulnerable group, or people under poverty line. Similarly, to the environmental aspect, what do you do that's contribute to environmental protection, conservation of environment and biodiversity, as well as the climate action and response and climate adaptation aspect that Julia has mentioned. And what benefits your enterprise or product and service do to local economy? Are you giving a chance for people to have higher incomes, help them save money, or generate new supply chain and value chain in your local economy? Then the criteria on intention and potential to become financially sustainable. So as we wants our enterprise to excel also in doing business. So we are going to look at your revenue model, or how you plan to make money. And if you are not profitable at the during the state that you apply for our awards, so does it convincing enough for our scorer and our juries member that your business will be sustained in the future? Another red criteria here is the partnership criteria and questions. This is also one of the most frequent asked questions, that do I need to have at least two other partners? Yes, you need to. What if I don't have two partners? I doubt that is true, because the partner in what seat intend to look at is not necessarily legally binding. You don't have to have a contract or official agreement with your partner. They could be your research partner, someone who support you during your incubation period. They could be someone from your supply chain, like your distributor, or your vendor who sorts the material for your enterprise. These can also be your partner. And we do later on require a proof of collaboration, but this is only like a letter certifying your collaboration activity. And if those activity that you claim during your awards application submission is true in the eyes of the partner that you mentioned. The last four criteria are locally driven and locally led. So if you are the enterprise from the local communities, that's answers. And but we do also wants to see that you can demonstrate that your business or the products or activity that you do benefits really the community, or you have the community involvement in during the business model setup, for example. The potential for scale up and replication. This talk about your future growth plan and a financial plan in the future. So after you have the financially sustained, then what is the next vision you want to do? Because we want to see the good business being replicated and scale up in maybe other location in other country. So your view that you can demonstrate the plan for this future. Your enterprise is in the early stage of implementation as seed targets small, growing, and aspiring business. So roughly, if we talk about the staff, we look at quite a high range from 5 to 200. The last session asked if we do not have 5 staff. It's not compulsory. You can have 1, 2, 3. It is fine too as a starting. We just have this as a rough number. And early, how old? We do not have that as a restriction. So you can be from 0 to 6, 6 months to 3 years, or even older than 3 years in business. That is also fine. The criteria that is matter most is in Seed Award, we look at the enterprise who already have market traction, which means you have product and service selling in the market. So some revenue generating, whether or not you reach the break-even point and have generate profits, that is not necessary, but it would be great. And the criteria on a specific requirement, in this case, climate adaptation, have already mentioned in details by Julia. Another general advice, sometimes I receive like, do you have any advice in scoring well in applying the awards? Yes, generally, and this also be explained in details in one of the section in our application, online application form as well, the SMART criteria. Usually SMART criteria we use to identify targets in monitoring a project or monitoring impacts. It's spelled out as S for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R for realistic, and T for time. So try to answer each question in a specific way, talking about the specific products, function, or service quality that you offer, or specific activity that your enterprise is doing that relevant to any given questions. Measurable, all those impacts that you claim, social, environmental, and economic. Do you have any measurable result, or do you plan to measure? What is the target line, for example? Whether it's achievable and realistic. This is also considering the resource at hand. If you have 3 people, or if you have 30 people in your company, of course the answer or the expectation result is going to be different. Besides be smart, be precise and concise. Each questions will have a limited characters, so use them well, straight to the point, demonstrate clearly what you are doing to answer that specific questions. So I think that's the end of my prepare frequent questions. So do we have any more questions than this in the Q&A?
There's one from Moses in the chat. He asks, is there a provision to track the progress or status of our applications after submission?
No, currently we do not have an automatic progress or status, but largely, as I mentioned in my timeline slide, so by the end of April, you will all receive the information whether or not you have been shortlisted.
Are there any more questions from your side?
Are there perspective for expanding to other country? Asking as a Zimbabwean whose country is not currently eligible. Yeah, there are always a prospect in expanding to other country, but we cannot really pinpoint to where exactly right now. But Zimbabwe used to be in our 2019 awards. Yeah, and in terms of countries' perspective, it's sometimes changing. This year, maybe not, maybe next year come back. So please stay tuned to our communication channel in seed.uno website. If there are no further questions on this, I just would like to emphasize that you can always later on connect to us by our Facebook message. Just search for our page seed.uno. Same for Instagram account seed.uno as well, and LinkedIn account it's seed-uno. And always our awards email seedawards 2021@seed.uno for anything about the awards. And if you have already started the application online, you will see the chat function, live chat function. Our staff is also there to help you. The questions on the presentation, we record this webinar, and after this section ends, we can send you the link to the recorded webinar as well as the presentation material. Section 4 about partner, I have already explained. Business type classified as climate adapting, also have already explained in details in several slides by Julia. So you can visit the record sessions or the presentation afterwards. Okay, I think we also reached the perfect timing for the end of our webinar. Please also feel free to stay connected with us through the channel that I have already mentioned. And best of luck and may the best enterprise win. Thank you very much for your participation today.
Thank you very much.